Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to have a little bit of a look at 3 more Pokemon cards that are never going to be released again. Well, yeah, they're never getting printed again. They're gone. That's what I'm getting at here, ladies and gentlemen. They be gone. It's a series, one of my favourite series we do on this channel. I always like having a good old look at this, and given that I am otherwise indisposed for a few days, I thought this would be a great time to have a look again. And I want to start off with a card which is actually very recent, and is only just about to rotate out, and yet I already think we've gotten to a point where it's not coming back. It's Galarian Zigzagoon, although honestly, right, if you want to go back a little bit further, we can have a look at Crobat G, because they're basically the same card. What we're talking about here is a Pokemon with an ability whereby when you play it from your hand onto your bench, you get to drop a damage counter on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And the problem here, very simply, is it's too good. And it's not too good in a, oh, well, you know, it's better than other cards kind of way. It's too good in a, it kind of ruins the game kind of way. If you look at the kind of cards that Pokemon have banned lately, it's cards that stop you playing the game. And what these abilities have are basically ways to stop you playing the game. Like, I can go first using Galarian Zigzagoon and using cards like Scoop Up Net, and I can reuse this ability a few times. Scoop Up Net lets me pick it up and then play it back down, etc. And in theory, and I know this isn't always going to work, but if I've got 4 Galarian Zigzagoon for Scoop Up Net, that's 8 damage counters dropped before my opponents even had a turn to draw a card. That's more than most basic Pokemon have. And that is why I think this kind of card is done. Because it's a kind of card which can win before your opponent draws a card, which is exactly the kind of card we have seen that Pokemon don't want and are really making an active point to try and get rid of. We saw it way back in the SP era. We saw it with Crobat G, which could then be combined with Poketurn. And yeah, that was another similar kind of thing where Poketurn could pick it up and put it down and go nuts like that. And I must confess, I was a little bit surprised when we actually saw this come back. Because this is exactly the kind of card that I could have imagined Pokemon going, nah, you know what, mate, I think we're good. I think we've kind of done this. I think we're okay. And this could have been something we just left there. But we didn't leave it there. We came back with Galarian Zigzagoon. So given that it's already come back once, why am I putting it on this list and thinking it won't come back again? And the answer is really simple. It's not just because it can win turn 1 going first and Pokemon don't like that, although that is obviously a part of it. It is because we've had Hawlucha. And I think that is really the point at which we can look at it and go, oh yeah, no, it's definitely gone now. It's definitely gone. Because Hawlucha is clearly the successor to Galarian Zigzagoon, except instead of dropping 1 damage counter on one of your opponent's Pokemon, it drops 2 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon, 1 on each of 2. And the gigantic difference between Hawlucha and Galarian Zigzagoon and Crobat is very simply, I cannot use Hawlucha to KO my opponent's only Pokemon turn 1 going first. And I really honestly believe it is as simple as that. And that's why I feel really confident that we're not going to be seeing Galarian Zigzagoon or a card along those lines coming back. Because you can look at it from a, this is what Pokemon generally like and don't like view and go, hang on a second, this does not fit at all. This is exactly the kind of card Pokemon don't want. But I don't think that personally is enough to say it's never coming back. I think what is far more instructive is combining that with another card which is clearly replacing it, and that's what we've got in Hawlucha here. We've got a card that is very simply coming along and going, nah, not happening, ladies and gentlemen, not happening at all. And yeah, I feel pretty confident that this one is just not coming back. And I kind of like that, because as good a card as it is, it's actually really kind of super annoying. And it's the kind of card that leads to wins, because your opponent just happen to have, how many times have you lost a game because your opponent happened to have 2 Galarian Zigzagoon and 3 Scoop Up Net in hand? I've lost those games. It's a little bit silly. Now, another more recent card, which I believe is never coming back, is Cynthia. Just Cynthia. We've seen a bunch of Cynthia cards over the years, but I'm talking today about ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill, bog standard Cynthia. Or, if you're a slightly older player like myself, you might call it Professor Oak's New Theory. It is just a straight shuffle draw 6. And here's the thing, right? We started off this video talking about Galarian Zigzagoon, and I could spin you a tale about how this is this unfair card which can lead to turn 1 wins going first, and it can break the game and all of that. That's not where we are with Cynthia. Cynthia is not that kind of card. Cynthia is, if this doesn't sound too mean, a less exciting kind of card. But Pokemon have basically shown us for a while now they don't like Shuffle Draw 6. Shuffle Draw 6 is too good. Now, and look, I've done this series for a while now. I am covering enough cards in this series that sooner or later I am going to be wrong. And let's just admit it in this video, right? This is one of the ones where I think I stand a higher chance of being wrong than average, because they have brought it back. So we had Professor Oak's New Theory. That was a Shuffle Draw 6. And then after that, they brought out Shauna. And what is Shauna? Same card, 1 less. It's a Shuffle Draw 5. Well, hang on a second, Wassy. They brought out Cynthia after Shauna. So if they went from Professor Oak's New Theory, Shuffle Draw 6, to Shauna, Shuffle Draw 5, and then back to Cynthia, Shuffle Draw 6, why are you telling me this card isn't going to come back when we've already seen it come back? And I got 2 reasons for you, and one of them's Shauna. They reprinted Shauna, and I know we seem to be going Shuffle Draw 6, Shauna, Shuffle Draw 6, Shauna, because we've literally done that. But something else happened with the advent of Scarlet and Violet, and that was Youngster. And Youngster, I think, is a very important card when looking at the fact we're not getting a Shuffle Draw 6, because Youngster is literally Shauna. Exactly the same card as Shauna, but a different character. And I think that's the answer, because I could see them flicking back and forth maybe, but then by the same token, the fact that they went back to a Shuffle Draw 6 but then went away from it again, that to me, and I don't know, this is me just kind of reading between the lines, but to me that basically says, hey, let's give it a go. Oh, that didn't work. Yeah, we're out. I'm thinking they tried one last time and decided it wasn't working and went away for it forever. But now they've doubled down on this. They've doubled down on Shuffle Draw 5 by going for Youngster in addition to Shauna. And at the end of the day, yes, I know we've had Cynthia, but Cynthia was released in Ultra Prism. And I know for players like myself that have been doing this for years and years and years and years, Ultra Prism actually kind of feels like a fairly recent set. It's not. This month it turned 5 years old. Ultra Prism is actually at this point an old set. It's not even remotely new. So we've got a set that was 5 years old, and then since then we've had a reprint of Shauna, and then Pokemon doubled down with a reprint of Youngster, and I think we've now gotten to the point where we can look up and go, oh yeah, no, this is over. And I know that Cynthia was kind of a second go after we abandoned Professor Oak's New Theory, But I really do think we've hit the point now where Pokemon have decided that Shuffle Draw 5 is enough and we're not getting a Shuffle Draw 6. And we can have more than a Shuffle Draw 6. We absolutely can have more than a Shuffle Draw 6. Take Bruno as an example. Bruno's a Shuffle Draw 7. If one of your Pokemon was KO'd during your opponent's last turn. Otherwise, it's a Shuffle Draw 4. And I think that's essentially where we are here. Yes, we can have more than a Shuffle Draw 4, but we're only going to be having this in a situation where you've met some other requirement, like having had a Pokemon KO'd. And I just think at this stage, we're just not there anymore. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. But when we do these videos, I like to work in sets of 3, so we need to have a little bit of a look at one more card that I am fairly sure is not going to be coming back anytime soon. So let's finish off having a look at Sableye from Dark Explorers. And as a fun side note, I think one day in the not too distant future, we are going to be doing a video about the Sableye that came around in Lost Origin. As a card they're never going to print again. I do think that in future years, that is something I'm going to be bringing around. And what is also super interesting, this is not the first Sableye that I have featured on this channel. Now, it's a video I cannot for the life of me find a link to, so it might be lost forever. But in a previous episode of this series, we looked at the Sableye with Impersonate and Overconfident, which literally broke the game. As a side note, there are links to all the previous videos in this series in the description, except for that one. I have got on a list that I did that video, but for the life of me, I cannot find that video, so it might be gone forever. So this is a second Sableye that we have featured in this series, and I honestly don't think it's going to be the last one. What made Sableye so gosh darn good? Junk Hunt. All about Junk Hunt. Wasn't Confuse Ray, shockingly. It was Junk Hunt. 1 Darkness Energy, and you put 2 item cards from your discard pile into your hand. And that is, shockingly enough, absolutely broken. Proper job, over the top, broken. Jason Klaczynski won the World Championships in 2014 with a Darkrai deck that was basically just Darkrai and Sableye. There was a long period of time where what people would actually do is play this with Puzzle of Time, because essentially Puzzle of Time, if you play 2 at the same time, you got to get any 2 cards from your discard pile back into your hand. So, and you would only actually play, a lot of those decks literally only played 3 Puzzle of Time, because you only ever needed 3, because, you know, you'd play 3 in case 1 was prized. But then you just recover 2, get any 2 cards back. And at that point, it was absolutely ridiculously broken. As a side note, Puzzle of Time is another card which I could absolutely see making this list in the future. But that's not for today, ladies and gentlemen. That's not for today. And I'm looking at my list. I've not got it down. I don't think I've done that one yet. So maybe in the future. Point is, this Sableye is ridiculous. Getting any 2 item cards back basically led to these ridiculous control decks. These absolutely broken, over-the-top control decks where, you know, there was a time where it was Puzzle of Time, but even where you didn't have Puzzle of Time, you would be able to get stuff like any item card. There was a time where Life Dew was actually seeing a whole bunch of play in Sableye decks because it was an ace spec, you could only have 1 copy of it in your deck. But when it was KO'd, it didn't give up a prize. So you would essentially just keep junk hunting for Life Dew. And when we have Puzzle of Time as well, what you would actually do is get KO'd with a Life Dew attached, and then immediately Puzzle of Time for that Life Dew, reattach it, and then junk hunt for Puzzle of Time, so your opponent could KO you over and over again and not actually take a prize. And these are just examples. This is not all of the stuff that Sableye could do. This is just a flavor of the kind of ridiculous stuff that it could do. It could get back to Crushing Hammer every single turn, so that you would always basically have Crushing Hammer every turn. Again, this is in no way, shape, or form the extent of what Sableye could do. I'm just talking about examples here. Nothing but just nice little examples. But the other thing is, we can do what we've done with so many of these other card, the other cards in this list here, and we can just have a look at what Pokemon are doing. Because we've seen this kind of ability just way, way worse. I mean, we can look at cards like the recent Houndstone promo, which has got Junk Hunt. Except it doesn't have Junk Hunt, because firstly, it's for 2 colourless energy, and secondly, it's on a stage 1. That's not the same, ladies and gentlemen. That is absolutely not the same kind of card. And that's the problem we keep running into here. We see similar kind of cards, and we've seen Junk Hunt Light for a while. I'm not going to give you like a billion different examples. Houndstone will do very, very nicely. It's the most recent one that's been revealed. But this is kind of my point here. Yeah, sure, we can recover these cards, but in nowhere near as efficient a way as Sableye. And sure, when Sableye was absolutely at its powers, we had stuff like Puzzle of Time and Life Dew, which absolutely made it far less fair, I grant you. But honestly here, we are looking at a situation where this is too good an attack that's done too well for too long. And it really is as simple as that. So it's gone, and I don't think it's coming back. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to know your opinions on all of this, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel and get some bonus podcasts, answer all of your questions, join a Discord and chat with us about Pokemon or anything else, and get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Chelsea Rose, who's been one of our biggest supporters for a while now, and is a very lovely person. So thank you very much to Chelsea for the support, and for being a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.